Okay, so we have started recording this session. There is a question on the chat. Is it fine if we haven't finalized the artifact yet? All right. So I understand a few of the teams have not yet finalized the artifact, which is okay. Yeah, which is okay. And it is going to take some time. So it's fine basically. So you have a little bit of time to find an artifact. Please have a discussion with us so that we can approve of it to see if there is enough information on the internet for you to research on it and that it is you can do a photogrammetry on it. So after that, you can basically continue with whatever we are learning today. I will share my screen and very quickly, uh, screen number one. Yeah. I hope you can see my screen. So we are moving into Blender. Great. You can see my screen, correct?
Yeah.
All right. So this is Blender, like we all know. I'll just toggle this. And we are going to use the Kiri engine model that we got and import it into Blender and try to optimize it for our exhibition that we are going to make in it. So that exhibition design is next week. So make sure that you understand what we are doing over here. I will show you this folder that we had made. If you remember, we had made a VMC6 folder, and in that folder we had put Blender table and chair. So this was week two, 2 and 3 submission, correct?
Sir, can you show how to submit Kiri engine?
I will tell you.
Okay,
Uh,
okay.
which artifact are you talking about?
No. Kiri engine, how to put it inside Blender.
Yeah, that is what we are going to discuss. Okay. Okay, so we have entered into week 4. So I hope all of you have created a folder called VMC6 and you should put your name next to VMC6. Like if you have like a team, then create a team folder. So week 2 and 3 are mostly individual submissions, but there is one team submission, which is the artifact selection. So you can create a team folder called artifact selection. Sorry, a team folder for VMC6 where it is shared with all the participants in your team. Okay. So in this, we are going to make a new folder called week 4. And in week 4, we are going to add few files. Okay. So if you can see this, all right. In Kiri engine, there is a basically export option. If you have noticed, there will be an export option. Kiri engine gives you 3 free exports per week. So that is good, right? It gives you like 3 exports that you can use in Blender per week. So that is great. In the beginning, it was only 3 free exports lifetime, but now they have changed it to per weekly. They refresh that setting. So once you get a Kiri engine export, you can send it to yourself on your email. Okay. Once you send it to your email, you go to your email and see the inbox. You download that zip file, you put that zip file in week 4. Once you extract it, you are going to see these files. There will also be a zip file over here from which you are extracting, but these are the files which are inside that zip file. I'm also looking at the chat, so just give me a second. Okay, somebody said e-Yantra folder that they have made. That is fine. The point is we are going to like the folder that you are making, like VMC6, we are going to ask you that folder at the end of the competition where all of your work is compiled. So when all of you are giving us your folder, to not get confused with other participants, you have to write your name and student ID. Okay. So make sure that you have put your name and student ID as the name of the folder, not just VMC6. We will tell you about it when the time comes. So for now, it doesn't matter what name your folder has. Coming back to the point. So once you extract the zip file provided by Kiri engine, you are going to get these 6 files. Okay. So you see these things are repeating 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2, 3. Now the naming convention is the same, but this one says low poly, and low poly. Low poly means low polygon count. If I move back to Blender, so what is polygon? Polygon is number of faces. Like this cube has 6 faces. Okay. So polygon count is 6. So coming back to this, if it says low poly, it means it has less number of faces. But does that mean the quality reduces of the 3D scan? The answer is variable. It might reduce, it might not reduce. The only way to check is we go into import it into Blender and see if any quality is being degraded or not. So let's just understand what these files are. One is a JPEG file, basically an image file. One is a MTL file. It is called a material file, okay? And the other one is a OBJ file. OBJ is the 3D model. Material and JPEG is the image texture which is put onto the material. If we remember the Blender table and chair, we have used image texture before. So this is that image texture. What MTL file does, it has the map of the JPEG on how to apply those textures on the 3D model. If you delete this file, the even if you apply the image, it will be in random places. It is this file which is telling this image on how to apply on this object. Okay, it's a little technical, but we'll get to it once we see it. Okay, let's go back to our model. I am going to delete all of this for now and just uh, keep a blank space. Let me turn on my preferences and then screen keys. Great. And enable on startup. Let's see. Screencast. Okay, I hope you can see my uh, whatever I click, but I think the font could be bigger. Yeah, 50. 50 is nice. Great. So this is fine. I think you can see whatever I'm typing. Now it is fine. Let me just turn this into 3D viewport. Screen key has gone. I have to bring that back, that origin. Great. Cool. So now what we will do, we'll try to import one of those 3D models that the Kiri engine has provided. We'll go to File, we'll go to Import, and then we'll look for the uh, format type. So if you see, there is a .obj file over here. Okay, so whenever you're importing anything into any 3D modeling software, you need to know which format you are working with. So we already know that we're working with the OBJ file. So we select OBJ, and then we are going to navigate to where VMC6 is, week 4. Now we have MTL file and OBJ file, low poly MTL, low poly OBJ. Now, where is the JPEG file? Because we have already selected OBJ from the drop-down menu, we can see OBJ. We can't import MTL file. MTL file is just a text file. So let's import 3D model OBJ. All right. So this is what Kiri Engine has provided us. It looks a little weird. So let me just orbit around it and see what it looks like. Now, of course, Kiri Engine does not know where the subject starts and where it ends. Of course, inside Kiri Engine, there is a cropping mechanism. You can use that also. But for someone who hasn't, you will still not get like complete perfection with Kiri Engine.
Sir,
So
can you show again how to just move that thingy in this render, whatever you have selected?
move it or import it.
Import, sorry.
Okay. I'll show you again. So this is the high poly one. Okay. Now, if you go back to the folder, this is what we have imported. Now there is also a low poly version. So I'm going to import this again. So import, for importing, you go to file because you're importing a file from somewhere else. Okay. You go import and you again select OBJ. But instead of 3D model OBJ, I'm going to select 3D model low poly OBJ. I will just check over here also if it is a OBJ that I have selected. Okay, I'm now downloading the low poly version. I will click
And
on,
sir,
sorry.
you have used pen drive or Bluetooth to transfer from your phone to laptop?
Okay, so when you open Kiri engine and then you go to your projects, there will be, once you click on the project, there will be an option to export it, not share, but export. So once you export, click on that export, it will tell you uh, to give an email. So you can type your own email and then click on export, and then an email will be sent to your inbox with the download link of the project of the 3D model. Understood? You should try it once, and then if there is any doubts, then come to me. All right. So
Okay.
we are here. Now, if we see the outliner, this is the outliner. I hope you remember the first Blender table and chair tutorial. So we had imported the high poly one. We have now imported the low poly one also. So these, where is the low poly and where is the high poly? So they're all in the same position. Okay. This is 3D model. If I grab and move, this is the high poly one. And then this is the low poly one over here. All right. So let me undo this. Control Z. And they're on top of each other. So we can only see one at a time. Now I want to see what is the difference between high poly and low poly. So how do I do that? So if you go into overlays over here, these two intersecting circles, if I click that down, there's something called statistics over here. So if I click on this, it shows me all these numbers. So what does this tell me? If I click on 3D model, which is by default the high poly version of our artifact, there are so many vertices, 1700 and 173,000 vertices are there. But if I click on the low poly version, there are only 7,000 vertices. So there's a difference in the vertices in the 3D model. We can watch it visually also. So if I just select a 3D model, the high poly one, and move it to the side a little bit, and then I select both of them by holding shift and select, and then go into edit mode together, like press tab. I will see the difference. If you can see, there are so many high density uh, points over here, whereas the low poly one has low density. All right. I hope you understand what this is. If I go press on tab again, I can come out of the edit mode of these two together. Now, why am I telling you all of this? Each one of you has a different laptop with a different configuration. For some of you, the high poly one will work, but it might hang your laptop for the other people. So it is important that you check which 3D model is working for you. Is this one working for you, or is this one working for you? So you can decide uh, if you want to work with a low poly one or a high poly one. It depends on your computer's specification and configuration. All right. Cool. So we come back to this. Now I want to move this back to the center. Because my computer is good enough, I want to work with the high poly one. You can work with low poly one also. All right. Now, what is the difference between high poly and low poly? Is there any render differences? The answer is actually no, there are no render differences. If I go into material preview, let me bring this back to the center. If you see, there is an origin, right? Origin is right in the center. Can you see it? Can you see that orange dot? Can someone confirm?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
So that orange dot is origin. You can rotate, scale, and grab with that origin point. So I want it back to the center. Now I did not do anything. I'm just grabbing and moving it and bringing it back to the center. All right. So if what do? I go to object, snap, selection to cursor. Okay. Your cursor has to be in the center. This black, red and white is the 3D cursor. You can move that 3D cursor also. If you press shift and right click, you can move the 3D cursor up and down. But I want that 3D cursor back to the center. So how do I do that? You go into object, snap, cursor to world origin. It is over here. So it brings it back to 0, 0, 0. Now I will select the object, go to object, snap, selection to cursor. So it goes back to the 3D cursor. All right. Now they are overlapping. The high poly one and the low poly one both are on the same location. So what I want to do is I will select both of them and I will create a new collection. And I will call this optimized. And then the old collection, I will call it backup. Okay. Now what I will do, I am going to, for argument's sake, let's assume the low poly one. I want to work with the low poly version of the 3D scan. I will duplicate it. Now, as soon as you duplicate, Blender puts that object into grab mode by default. So to come out of grab mode and place it exactly where it was duplicated from, you right click. So now you have duplicated the low poly model. See over here, it says low poly dot 0, 0, 1. Okay. I can drag this and put it in the optimized collection. The collection icon looks like a box. Okay. Now what I will do, I'm going to hide the backup and I'm going to click on the camera also. So what does this camera do? Whenever you click on render, if the camera is active, it will render. If the camera is not active, it will not render. So I'm only looking at 3D low poly. So if I hide this, everything will go away. Okay, I'm going to click on this eye icon. Everything goes away. So I know for a fact that only the 3D model low poly dot 001 is visible, everything else is hidden. So if you hide the uh, collection, everything inside the collection also gets hidden by default. Okay, that is what collections do. They override every individual objects inside the collection. So this I have. So now it looks decent, okay? Even though it has only 7,600 vertices. Now 7,600 vertices is not low, okay? But still it is low in terms of what Blender can handle. So 7,600 vertices are here and it looks decent. Once the material is applied, it still looks high detailed. So this is a very good model if you think about it. Now, the first thing I want to do is like rotate it and try to put it upright so that I can manipulate all these things. Now, one way to look at it straight is using the gizmo over here. So if I can click on Y minus Y, now I want to make it straight. All right. So I press rotate and I'll try to rotate it. Okay. So I'm guesstimating. I'm going to see and decide if it is upright or not. Now, you can't be 100% accurate, that is known, but it is fine. You don't have to be 100% accurate. You have to be close to accuracy as much as possible. So Z also looks fine. So I'm in uh, wireframe mode, okay? And I'm using my grid to see if the right angles of the artifact is aligning with the grid or not, or close to being aligning. It doesn't have to exactly align, but close to it. Now, this is a little tilted, so I will rotate it a bit and stop it there. So this is close enough for me to move ahead. Okay. Now there is this floor. So this artifact was kept on a table and this artifact was behind glass. And some of the flooring has also been became a part of the exported 3D model. So my job is to basically get rid of whatever is not required and only focus on this. So how do I do that? So for this, we are going to use, can somebody tell me? We are going to use Boolean modifiers. Okay, to understand Boolean modifiers, let's hide this and let's move on to a simple cube. Now this is a cube. Let me go into solid view. This is a cube and I will duplicate this cube and move it to the side. And I am going to also add a icosphere. The icosphere is here and I will move it to the side. Okay. I hope am I moving too fast? I pressed on the X on my keyboard so that it aligns with the X axis. Okay. Let me know if I'm moving too fast. Dhavin, you have a question?
Sir, while you were rotating, sir, I saw that in the transform panel there is like a rotation 0 0 is 0 is showing. But while doing that alignment, then can't you just type the specified rotation to the degrees?
You can do that also.
Like that would be more accurate and less time consuming also.
It depends on your preference. If you want to use numbers, basically what Dhavin is saying, if you press N on your keyboard, and if you have selected a 3D mesh and go into item, there are numbers over here. And you can use those numbers to rotate it. Like, for example, I want to rotate this cube 45 degrees using the Z axis. So I can click 45 degrees and then it will rotate 45 degrees. So it depends on whether you want to use numbers or you want to eyeball and do it. because I've been using Blender for so long, I know like I can guesstimate very nicely, basically. That is what I'm trying to say. But if you feel like you have to use numbers, then that is also fine. Okay, great. I'll just come back to this. As a matter of fact, let's just keep it at 45 and then come back. I press the N so it goes away. So basically, that is the number menu, you can call it. So you can remember that the shortcut is N and T is for tools menu. Okay. And to access them, there is a small button over here, like very small. So if you click on it, it comes like that. And to close it, I think you have to drag it and close it physically. Great.
Sir,
So
that's
let's
not
up.
what I meant actually.
Oh, what did you mean?
So like in the modified page also, like above that there is also one na, so you can use this directly from that, and that is
This
visible
and this
like
is the
20.
same.
Yeah, that is visible 24/7. So I don't think you need to use the N and complicate things.
Yeah, cool, cool. It depends on you. This transform and this transform is the same. All right. So basically, why it is repeating in two different positions is because you could be in any other uh, tab also, and you still want to see the transform tools. So you can copy it, paste it into some other properties to modify it. So that is why it is repeated in two different spaces. Okay, coming back to this. Uh, Now I want to cut this cube using other objects. So how do I do that? Now question arises, which object do you want to cut? I want to cut this object. So you're going to select that object. Then you are going to go into modifiers. Modifier icon looks like a wrench. Okay. You click on it, click on add modifiers, and then over here it says generate. Now, of course, you're not generating anything, but you are manipulating the shape of the object. So you will go into generate, and then there is a boolean modifier over here, the third one from the top. So if you click on that, it creates this modifier over here. Now there are a few settings that you can do. It automatically is in difference over here. Difference means subtraction. Now operand type is object, that is fine. There is collection and object, so we'll just click on object. Now the modifier is asking you which object should you use to use as a knife to cut the original object. So let's say I want to use this object. So I will, as soon as I click on this, see the modifier goes away. Why? Because the modifier is applied to this object. So only when that object is selected is when you're going to see the modifier. If you click on this, there is no modifier applied to this object. All right. So don't get confused when that goes away. You select the object, you go into the eyedropper icon, and then you select which object to be used as a cutting tool. So I'm going to select this cube. Okay. Now this cube is not selected. Okay. I will move this cube in the y-axis and then in the x-axis, and I'll bring it down, and I'll try to intersect it in some direction. So, but where is the cutting happening? So if you see, the outline is already showing me there is some cutting happening, but I'm not able to see because this cube is blocking my view. So if I hide this cube, so I'll be able to see the cut. So this cube I'll select and I'll hide this. Now you can see there is a cut appearing. So this is how you can use booleans. Okay. Now if I select this, instead of using one boolean, I can use two booleans also. I select another boolean modifier. It's a very brand new boolean modifier. But instead of the cube which I selected, I am going to select this icosphere. Now I'm going to move this icosphere into the cube, move it up a little bit. Now again, I can't see what is being cut because the icosphere is stopping me from seeing beyond that. So I will hide it. Now you see the icosphere is also being used as a cutting tool to cut this sphere. I hope this you understood what this is. There are some questions on the chat, so I'm going to answer that. What if I accidentally too much or in the wrong place? Great. Very good question, Ridan. What if you cut too much or too little? All right. So let's go into icosphere. Now I decided, oh no, I don't want the icosphere to cut the top portion. I want the icosphere to cut only the bottom portion. So if I go into icosphere and I move it down, but this was supposed to be cut, right? But it is still there. So let's hide the icosphere. So what is happening? So this is live updating. If you move the icosphere, the cut will also move. So let me just do one other thing. You don't have to do this. If I select the icosphere and then go into object and then viewport visibility, and instead of textures, I click on wire. So I don't see the surfaces. I only see the wire. And now this why I'm doing so that I can see through the icosphere. Okay. If I move the icosphere, you can see it is live updating. Okay. So that is the power of modifiers. It can keep updating live. Uh, it can keep manipulating like at every instance of the time. Okay. Let me just bring it back to solid. No, textured. Great. So now what do I do? Now I have cut and I've decided that this is fine. But if I delete this icosphere, will the cut still be there? So let's do that. Let's press X and delete. And the cut is not there. So how do I make the cut permanent? I'll press Control Z to undo. Now, if I go into the modifier, this cube has the modifier. This icosphere doesn't have the modifier. Okay, the cube has the modifier because the cube's shape is changing. If on the right there is a drop down icon, if I click on apply, then if I move the icosphere, now it is not live updating. The cut is permanent. All right, let's go back to the cube. I'll show you again. The original cube has the modifier, and right next to the cancel icon, there is a drop down icon. If I click on apply and then move the cube, the cut is permanent. Now you can't change anything. So you can keep adjusting the cut till you get a good cut and then you can apply it. Is that understood? Okay. Now let's do the opposite. I will delete this cube. You can still undo after applying. So I had applied, right? I say Control Z. I'll click. See, the boolean has come. I've clicked on undo and the boolean has applied, uh, unapplied itself, basically. So both the booleans are now available because I pressed Control Z a couple of times. Both the booleans have appeared. So that undo is universal. Okay, great. Anyways, now we will come back to another good possibility. Now let's look at some other examples. Now, instead of difference, let's look at intersection. Now, what is this? Give me 1 second. Sorry for that. Um, let's come back to our session. So what does intersection do? Let's look at the cube. Now, before what it was doing, it was Niharika, you have a question?
Yes, sir. Means I just wanted to know, like, why is this like necessary? For what are we doing this?
Yes, I am teaching you all of this so that we can use Boolean modifiers to exactly know where to cut and crop. So in Kiri Engine, if you see, there is a crop option where you have to draw a cube around your artifact. So in Blender, the cropping happens using Boolean modifiers. All right. So okay, I think we should stop this and then go back to the 3D model that we have. All right. So this is the 3D model that we have. We are going to add a cube. So the cube and the 3D model are intersecting. So let's look at it from the front, and let's go into wireframe mode. Now I will scale the cube in a way that it only occupies the entire artifact. So I'll scale it in the x-axis. What I can do is go into edit mode of this cube and select all the left vertices. Okay, these are the left vertices I selected. This is happening because I'm in the X-ray mode over here, and move it a little bit close to the artifact. I'll select the bottom ones, move it a little to the top. Now, if I'm moving, I confined it in the Z axis. Now I want to move very slowly. So if you hold shift, you see my mouse. Even if my mouse is moving too much, the movement is very slow because I'm holding shift. Okay. That's called fine tuning. So I'll do the same for the top. Now let's look at it from the side view. I'm holding shift wherever I feel like I need to move slower. Okay. Okay. Some of the artifact is below this also. So let's do that again. And I'll bring it down. And I will see if everything is enclosing the artifact that I want. So now we can apply Boolean to this. If I click on the artifact, because I want the artifact to be cut and modified. So I'll click on add modifier, Boolean, uh, and then click on the cube. Now I wanted the inside, but it is giving me the exact opposite thing. So instead of difference, I'm going to select intersect. Correct? So now it is giving me exactly what I want. Nothing more, nothing less. So I can apply this. Now what happens to this cube? I can move this cube and then I can delete this. Now let's look at it from material preview mode. Now you see you have an exact cut of the artifact. Understood? Now there is one option over here which I very much use. This is so please pay attention. Okay, there is this additional add-on which we can use to actually move the origin to the bottom. Now, why do we want to move origin to the bottom? That is another issue, but we want this origin to go to the bottom of this. So how do we do that? Now there is, if you go into edit and then preferences, and in add-ons, there is something called PI menu. 3D viewport pie menu. So if you activate this, okay, you have to check this. And then if in the drop down, you don't need all of these, you just need one pie menu over here, which is uh, origin origin menu, origin pie. Okay. So you need to activate this. You can deactivate all the rest if you want. But this origin pie is very, very helpful. And the shortcut is Control Alt X on Windows. So I already have it activated. So I'm going to close this. Now I've selected this artifact. If I press Control Alt X, now this menu appears. In this menu, there is an option called origin to bottom. So let me just cancel this. Let's focus on the origin, Control Alt X, origin to bottom, it will jump to the bottom. Now this origin is at the bottom. Now, why did I do that? So I did that because we want to, let's assume in our exhibition, we want to scale it and make it big. So it is going to happen from the origin. Yeah. And rotating from the origin in the Z. So this base becomes very important for us. I don't want the artifact to go into the table. If the origin was in the middle of the artifact, then it expands in both directions. But if the origin is right at the bottom, it will only expand in the top direction. So now I can snap this to the center of the 3D space. So go into object, snap, selection to cursor. So this is how you can optimize your 3D models. There are other ways also. If you go into edit mode and you select everything, okay? Now there is an option called merge by distance. If I go into vertex, let me see if it is here. Mesh, merge, merge by distance. I click on this. It says 0 vertices removed, which is good. So why is that important? Sometimes two vertices are on top of each other and we don't really know which vertices are those. So the usual trick is you select everything, you click on uh, mesh, merge, merge by distance. I use it so many times in my daily use of Blender that I've added to my quick favorites. Okay, if you right click on any command which you use too many times, you can right click on it and add it to your quick favorites. Now to access those quick favorites, if you press Q, it gives you all these quick favorites. Okay, if I right click, Q, see by distance is right over there. So I use it so many times that it is one of my favorite commands in Blender. I hope this is understood how to manipulate your object and basically create an optimized version of it. Now I'm going to take some questions. There is questions on the chat. This is showing only two parts that we are supposed to be cut, but as an object, the intersection portion of two objects. Yes, cool. Great. Okay, anything else, guys? You guys understood what this is?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. So
Yes,
this is
sir.
very simple. So booleans are used, like modifiers are used a lot of times. Modifiers are really cool. They're basically a bunch of commands merged together. So all the very common uh, commands which you do in sequence, Blender engineers decided to make modifiers out of it. So this is a like optimized version of your artifact. So you have to save it. So where will you save it? You're going to save it in week 4, optimized version of Kiri engine or whatever. So basically you have to From now onwards, let's do this. Let's practice this. From now onwards, if your artifact is selected, save all your files with that artifact's name. For example, this artifact's name is Parvati, goddess Parvati, goddess Parvati by Madhu Shravan Mulli. I mean Madhu. Let's just say Madhu, and I will save it. Okay. So if I go back into my week 4 um, folder that I made, these are all the files which Kiri Engine gave. And this is the Blender file that I created. So it is saved over here. This file and that is the same thing. Any doubts till now? Can you show what Pi does again? Okay. What Pi does is, now I have activated Pi menu. If I go into preferences, add-on and type Pi in the search, it gives me this Pi menu. Okay. If I click on it, all of these are activated for me. Okay. Because I use all of them. You don't have to use all of them, but what you have to use is the origin Pi menu inside the Pi menu add-on. So what origin does is it can move the origin point, this dot, orange dot. It can move the origin point using a few examples. Like if I press Control Alt X, origin to selected. So what does this do? Origin to geometry. So it brings the origin back into the center of the vertices. It basically makes an average of all the vertices inside the origin and it brings it to the center of it. Now, the other way to do it, like the old way to do it, like there is another way also. First, you have to move the 3D cursor to where you want the origin to go. For example, my 3D cursor is over here. And I want the 3D cursor to be at the bottom. So how do I do this? I go into edit mode. I select these surfaces. So if I go click on this, click on the surface. Then I go into select mesh, sorry, go into mesh, snap, cursor to selected. So this 3D cursor is going to come to the bottom. That happened. Now if I have to go into object mode and then select the object, set origin, origin to 3D cursors. Now the same effect has happened. All right. With Pi menu, what it does, it combines all of those actions into Control Alt X, origin to bottom. And then it's easier to do it that way. Any questions?
No, sir.
Great. So basically, Blender week 4, that submission is this basically. So week 4 submission, right click, compress to zip file. Now this is obviously a team submission. Only one, if you are more than one person, the team leader has to submit, or someone you decide who that person is. The team leader is basically the person who's responsible for submissions. Okay. Uh, so you will type your artifact name, Goddess Parvati, and team ID. Okay, team ID, whatever that is. And then you will upload this on the Blender, sorry, on the website. So let's just check how much is the file size. Is 23 MB. So sometimes I've seen that a lot of participant, basically I think what we need to do, oh, let me just delete the other two because we haven't really used them, the backup. Why I have asked to keep a backup is because there might be a probability that your laptops might crash. Okay. So if there is a backup, that will be good. One other way to help you is go into preferences and in save and load. Okay. Auto save should be active and go to minimum as possible. You can go up to 1 minute. And how many uh, files can you save? Recent files could be 20 and save versions could be 1. It could be more than 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever. Okay. So make sure your auto save is active over here. So what that does is even if your file crashes, you can open Blender, like open Blender and then go into file, recover, go into auto saves. Now there are multiple auto saves over here. So you are going to check the date and time. Okay. So this today is 1858. So now it's basically 59. So this was saved 1858. So I have saved it, right? Yeah, I think I've saved it. So I can say deleted those backups. I'll go into file, save as, I think week 6, Goddess Parvati, and I'll save it. Cool. Now I will close this file and quit. Now there is a backup over here which is made. Blend 1 means it's a backup file. Anyways, so now I go back. Now I'll delete this. I'll right click. Again, compress to zip file. You can specify a name. Alt enter 23 MB. Okay. So sometimes maybe the website will not take in your zip file because the memory might increase. So you will have to upload it to your Google Drive and then send it on the email. All right. So people who have already done it, they know that that is the instructions that we have provided to them. You can send us the submission through emails if the website is not accepting your email. There are some questions. Okay, there is a form basically. Deepa, do you want to discuss the form? How did I manipulate the scaling to one phase? Ridan, can you unmute yourself and ask that question?
Sir, I was asking when you were boxing the artifact
Yeah.
to the boolean, you were manipulating it so it was only moving in one direction.
Yeah,
The
I confined it to one of the axes. Press X, Y, and Z. No, after pressing G, you can
yeah.
constrain it in the x-axis, y-axis, and
Yes, sir,
z-axis.
but then it's going up in like both directions. It's scaling in both directions. Scale it only in one direction.
No, after I have applied the boolean or the cutting box, which one are you talking about?
I'm talking about the cutting, like when you cut it only to the artifact.
Mm, does anyone know the answer to this from our viewers?
Can you repeat the question?
I was saying when Sir was dropping the artifact only to the artifact and removing the floor. He was using a cube and was only scaling the artifact in one face direction. So how was doing that?
Scaling it in one direction. That is because
You have to just
like
press the S, and then you can choose which axis you have to scale it on, and you can drag your mouse as per your requirement to scale it.
basically, let me try to understand the question. This is scaling. So is this what you're asking? Like it is only scaling in upward direction?
No, so when you were taking the cube and putting it on the artifact,
Uh-huh.
and then it was cutting only till there, and you were only scaling the cube in one direction.
Yeah. So basically, I have entered into edit mode of the cube. I'll go into wireframe and I select which vertices I want to move. All right. And then I can confine it in the axes that I want to move it. So I wanted to move in the Z axis, for example.
Yes, sir. Thank
So
you.
this is happening in edit mode. I'm in the edit mode of the cutting cube.
Okay, sir.
All right. So if we are not having a team, we can submit individually. Yes. If you don't have a team, you are an individual team, basically. You're still a team, but individual.
Sir,
Madhu,
while submitting, uh,
Dhavin, finish it.
yeah,
Then
sir,
we'll
while submitting, like, yeah, if I didn't make a team, I have to just put my team ID as like the last digit of my e-Yantra UID, no?
your student ID is team ID.
Yeah.
Okay. Deepa?
yeah, Madhu, you had called me before.
Yes. So do you want to explain the form to them?
Yeah. So what's happening now is, as all the participants have started submitting the blend files, blend files are pretty huge, like more than 100 MB or like that. So portal mein we cannot accept any file size that crosses 50 MB. So what I am suggesting is email is not helping us out because we are getting emails. Only thing is tracking them, and if the students are in a team, it becomes difficult. So what we will do is we will put up a Google form in the portal itself. So where there is problem statement tab, you will find a button. Just you have to click that and it will lead to a Google form where you have to add the team ID. And if you are an individual participant, whatever is the ID that is visible in your profile, you can add that and then upload the files. That's what I wanted to convey, Madhu.
Is that Google form active now?
Currently, it is not, but I'll enable it. So we have to put it on the portal. So once it is done, we will send an email also to everybody.
Okay, great. Is that
Yeah.
understood how to upload it? Basically,
Yes,
there's a
sir.
Google form. Follow the Google form.
Yes,
Everything
sir.
will be all right. Okay. Uh, when is the submission for week 4? So week 4 submission is again 1 week. So today is 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th is the submission deadline. But I understand a lot of you have not yet selected the artifact. So we are expecting to delay the submission, but try to submit it by 10th. Okay. We will extend the deadline depending on the submission response that we get. Any other questions? Exams are going on. If you have any exams and you want like extensions, please reach out to us. We will have a discussion first, and then we will discuss if an extension is required, and then we will take on the extension. So it is an individual thing. Not everybody's exams are going on. So you have to communicate to us when you can work, when you cannot work, when you are free, when you have exams, so that we can work together so that the submission is fulfilled. You have an issue joining a team. Susmit. Okay. We will solve that in a while, Susmit. Just hold on. Any other questions? Blender related questions? All right. Prem, are you there?
Prem is not there, but I'll help Madhu.
Okay. Susmit has a question. Susmit, can you unmute yourself?
Probably we'll stop recording.
Yeah, we can stop recording.